afternoon, everybody. My name is Shivani Jadhav. I am currently pursuing my MBA from ITM Group of Institutes, and today, along with my partner Shiva Kanchula, we will be interviewing Mrs. Usha Ramakrishnan. She is a consultant for emotional intelligence and emotional wellness. She is the Vice President of Indian Council for Child Welfare and was the former chairperson at Vidyasagar, Chennai. Ma'am, it's a pleasure having you here with us today. Ma'am, first of all, can you please give a brief introduction about yourself? Can you please tell us something about yourself?
What do you want me to say? Been working in this field with children, for children, by children for over 30 years.
Okay.
I have a background in psychology and special education. And like you said, I've worked at Vidyasagar starting as a special educator. Before that, I was in a regular school. And somehow these children attracted me so much. Maybe it's my own thing because my children were the kind of inspiration. I have triplets, I have three boys. I learned all my psychology, I think, child development when they were growing up. Well, anyways, so then I worked at Vidyasagar for a long time. And Vidyasagar is an organization that works with persons with disabilities towards their education, inclusion, employment. It's a fascinating field. We work with the persons themselves, we work with their families and the communities. So every day I was learning a little more, and somewhere along the way, I realized that parenting was as important as this. So I went into working with parenting, and then I came across this fascinating theory of intelligences, which is called the theory of multiple intelligences. And that for me was like a turning point when you look at everybody in a different way, in a very positive way. And it has enabled me understand the children I work with better, help me in my trainings. I've been a master trainer for a long time, and yeah, master trainer working with special ed and now with parenting and things like that. It has enabled me understand people and motivate them, and yeah. So
All right. Ma'am, so since how long have you been associated with these special children? Like, for how long have you been
since
working?
85, 86.
All right, so like that is almost 35 years then. 35 years. Right. Ma'am, can you please like describe an example of when someone have had to be confrontational to achieve results? Like what did they do and how was it received?
What do you mean by confrontation? And someone comes across to a costume.
Yes, ma'am.
Typically, when someone comes to confront,
Yes,
that means they come rightly to attack, and they say there's a beautiful proverb that says attack is the best form of defense. So when
defense,
someone
correct.
is coming across to you smart, very strongly, it's probably because they're trying to, there's something behind which is troubling them.
Right,
My understanding of human emotions and accepting people as they are has been very helpful. So if someone is doing that to me, there must be a reason. Is the first thing I would ask myself, and what could that reason be?
right.
Often a parent might do it, saying, "What is this? Nothing is happening about my child. What are you
Yeah,
doing?" I've been worked in this field, I've been doing parent training. So you realize that while the parent sounds angry, it's actually so much of hurt and fear and not knowing what's going to happen to my
comfort as
child.
well.
So once you're able to understand you're on the same page, so step one is you first listen in and don't try and react. Reaction doesn't help. And it becomes a tutu meme. What's the role?
Yeah,
That's not the role of a profession. And you
right,
find out and you make friends. And then you realize they slowly open up. And you also are ready. This is very important, an open mind to accept a different point of view. If you say, this is my way, this is the highway, then you've lost the battle. So if you want
right.
to help someone, you've got to have an open mind.
Yes.
So
You
you
have to be adjusting, and I think you have to be open to, accommodating and molding yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And they often have a valid point. When you go in with that mind, you understand where they're coming from. And then you'll be in a better way to talk to them. The second point is often people have poor communication skills. What comes across as anger or confrontation is actually because they've never grown up with someone talking politely to them. See,
Right.
communication involves five things, as you would know. Words
Correct.
are only 20%, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, what is the other 80? It is your tone of voice,
Right.
it's your body language, it is your, your facial expression. Now, people who've not grown up with that environment may not know how to do it. They've only met other people who talk roughly. Their hearts might be very good. They
Yes.
might say, "Excuse me, ma'am, please can you tell me how to do this?" I say, "Hari, ma'am, what is this? Tell me the answer." No, it doesn't mean anything. You'll have to show the way. So often it is about, so when there is a mismatch between what they want to say and their tools, it can also lead to what looks at a confrontation. Some
Yes.
people are truly, they're out to make a quarrel for a quarrel. If there is someone like that, well, then you've got to know how to move away.
Right.
You don't, if someone is just thirsting for a fight and their
Correct.
issues are elsewhere, if they're very hungry, they can be angry. If people are very tired, they can. This is the first thing. If someone is screaming, are they hungry? Are they tired? We
Right.
react to what they're saying, but it's actually a physiological thing. So once you see through this,
Correct.
no
Correct.
longer a confrontation.
So you have to put yourself in their place and then think to understand.
Yeah, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Definitely. So, moving to the next question. Please tell us about a time when someone had to work cohesively as a team with people who think uniquely or differently. Like
That's
when you had to, team up with somebody who
yeah,
thinks
yeah.
absolutely different from what your thoughts are. So,
That's a
how
very good
was that
question.
experience?
Very nice question. Shivani and Shiva. Nice. Very nice. But typically, when you work in a team, that's what you get. You get people who think differently, who are differently. What is important is my work has all been with children, disability, and this. So
Yes.
I will focus on that. I'm not talking business. Mine is not a business model.
Yes,
This
ma'am.
is always
Yes.
higher altruistic purposes, people general sense. So
So,
when
ma'am,
you're talking about, you know, different, yes, people are different. And the point is, when you work in a team, the differences is what makes the whole. Otherwise, you can have too much of the same kind.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so people who think differently. Here again, like I said, I find the theory of multiple intelligence is very, very useful. It says it's not how smart you are, it is how you are smart. And all of us are intelligent in different ways.
Ma'am, can you please elaborate what you just said? Like how smart
Doesn't
it is not how.
It says it's not how smart you are, it's not how smart. It's not that intelligence is one thing and you're more or less. Rather, it is how you are smart, in what way. He says there are
Okay.
different types of intelligences. We are all a combination of those. So there's a linguistic intelligence, the intelligence of the writers and poets, musical intelligence, the intelligence of the composers, spatial intelligence, the intelligence of the artists and architects,
Yes.
the body intelligence, the intelligence of the sportsman, the
Yes.
naturalist intelligence, intelligence of people who are flora and fauna, and the people intelligence, interpersonal intra, which is what you will need in a big way. Now, often when people are different, they talk different language, they process differently. A person with linguistic intelligence will talk a lot. A person
Yes.
with bodily kinesthetic intelligence will say, "Arey bhai, show me what to do now." He wants
Mhm.
action.
Yes.
A person who's logical, they say, "Bas bolte jab tak, give me the point, come to the point," because he's logical. He's saying
Yes.
this person is talking all over the place. So when
Yes.
we understand each other, we're all a combination. So it is fascinating. Each one has their strengths. So the team leader's role is to put the right person in the right job. No
Right.
question.
Absolutely.
You put a
And
dancer to sing and you put a singer to do mathematics, you will have a problem.
correct. And I think the workplace that you're working in, so like these special children are your team, and as a team, I think like everybody is very special. Everybody thinks extremely differently because they are they are differently abled. So
Yeah,
I
but
think
I've
you.
worked with children and teens and adults. They're impacting policy, by the way. Some of our kids with, yeah. So often when we say there is a problem, we look at what is not okay. So a child with cerebral palsy has difficulty in movement and walking. So they say,
Yes.
see, he can't walk, he can't walk, he can't walk. Now that is only one area of development. He might be very intelligent linguistically. So the point is to put that in perspective. And different disabilities are very different. Each person is very different. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you need to know your the children first, the conditions first.
Right.
Appreciate them as children, and find out what they are,
Correct, ma'am. Absolutely right.
and to accept them as they are. We needn't set ourselves as the gold standard. I can write one page in 3 minutes, so anyone who doesn't write it is not
Yes.
up to the mark. Well, we spend 20 years trying to do research on one leaf, and the Lord creates them in milliseconds. It's all a matter of. I'm lifting you all to the next level of thinking. Does it make sense to both of you, Shiva?
Yes.
And especially at this age, I want to tell you something. At your ages is when the brain is developing hugely. This is the
Okay.
second rapid stage of development. And
Okay.
this is the time when you need to get your values on pat and make a difference. So,
Yes,
like
ma'am.
we say, whether it's a confrontation, if you just think, we think with our heads, and we think for others with our heads and for ourselves with our heart. If you think for others with your heart, there is no confrontation.
Yes.
It's a lot of, not fixing other people, fixing ourselves first.
First. Correct. Yes, ma'am. Putting yourself first, I think,
No,
is extremely
understanding yourself, not putting yourself first.
okay.
Understanding ourselves first. Putting yourself first is enough. That is the ego coming in the way. That is our enemy.
Okay.
How can this one say this about me? Ego.
No, not like that, ma'am.
No.
But like, the way I meant it was putting yourself first, as in, you should first take care of your own self, and then you will
Care
be
means
able to care.
understand your strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
Understand yourself. Not
Yes.
take care, of course. Food chatterboarding, yes. You don't eat enough, you'll be snarling at everybody. You don't sleep enough, you'll be snapping at everybody.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Ma'am, next question. What do you consider to be your most significant strengths?
I thought of very nice questions. I keep asking everyone this, which actually, when you sit down and think for yourself, I would think truly and honestly at this age, not when
Mm-hmm.
I'm your age, at this age, it's my faith. It's a
Faith.
faith that something far beyond us, far beyond is driving this whole thing, and we are little parts and we can do our parts well. That's all. Like the Bhagavad Gita says, Nimitra Matram Bhava Savyasachi. You are but an instrument. Do that part well. So it's my faith. That is one thing. Second, I would think is basically I can understand people well. It's no effort. It's like a game for me. And I love, because I basically love people and children. It's easy to understand. And I would think my ability to synthesize information. So if I get it in
Okay.
one realm. So my work with training and children and all has been at that realm, training at psychology, neurosciences, special education, bringing them all together and making a difference in the child's life. Instead of keeping it as theory. Say, okay, there's brain damage, so what? Not keeping it there, but bringing it into, therefore, what can this child do? What must I do? How can I help others to help this child? So you
Yes.
connect many dots,
Yes, ma'am.
knowing the fundamentals. So that I think is also mine. Yeah.
Okay. Ma'am, what do you think you like the most about your work?
I think the sheer variety and the challenge and not knowing the answers. Every day when I used to sit in an advisory clinic and we used to
Mm-hmm.
have a child coming in with a parent, you
Okay.
don't know the answers. You don't know the answers. And then kind of bring in all your knowledge, all your skills, all your things,
Yes.
and then you do it.
So
That,
you are,
yeah, yeah. And the fact that it allows you to do that thinking. I think over the 30 years, I have
right.
learned so much from every child I've worked with, every
Yes.
parent, every teen. My best friends are the youngsters with disability. They tell me their perspective is so different from ours.
Yes.
We
Yes.
become better human beings. I've learned a lot from my colleagues.
So I think, you get to learn every day, as well as,
Very
you're
true. Very
forced to
true.
think every
Very
day.
true. And you don't know. They call it unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know.
Okay.
That's the
So,
first stage. We
so
all go through
at
what,
this
and
stage,
then we go to conscious incompetence. We are aware. Oh, I don't know. Oh, did he say some degenerative condition? Then I must read up about it. Then you get to that stage. In the third stage, you're consciously competent. You say, okay, cerebral palsy, it's athetosis, it is this, so he's going to have difficulties in this. You're far more clued on. Oh, it's autism, so there is going to be hypersensitivity. You're clued on better. And
Yes.
then the last stage is when you have learned and experienced and then all that. It's like breath. It's called unconscious competence. You know, you're not even aware that you know. Like you must be knowing in some areas of your work. Oh, this I know. You don't even know, you're not even aware till you have to tell somebody else. So those are the stages. So we need to go through that.
So even at this age, like I think, the best thing about your job is that you're getting to learn every day, like every
Very,
day you.
very true. Very true. Different populations, different needs, different countries. What is relevant here is irrelevant in another country. Very
Ye-
true.
So moving on to the next question, how do you handle changes? Like, can you tell us about a time when you had to respond flexibly despite competing demands?
I'm not very sure when you say competing demands, do you mean in work or holistically? All
Ma'am,
the time. Well, actually, my work has been like that. As you go up the managerial ladder, you need to have technical skills.
yeah,
You need to be able to, have good with your public relations. You'll
yes,
have to help with support of the financial thing. You've got many things plus your home. For me,
yes,
home has always been a priority. I've never given up one for the other. So that ability, that really calls again for thinking, good time management skills.
yes,
There's a beautiful management thing which says, don't tell me how hard you work, tell me what you get done.
right.
Lots of
I
things.
think the
I'm so
first,
busy, I'm so tired, they're all so this thing, but the effect of it is not seen. So, yes, so those, if you ask me, in the beginning stages, like I said, I had three sons all going to school. This has also to be organized. The Land Rover would come to pick me up. I had to be ready for that. And then you go there and you meet all kinds of people.
hmm.
One of the first things you learn is leave any stress behind, focus totally. That has helped me hugely. I think you have a question on stress. I'll come back to that. Yeah. But so
No,
that has been, if you ask me what is the challenge, come back to your question, Shivani. Ask me that question again.
ma'am, how do you handle changes? Like, can you tell us about a time when you had to respond flexibly despite competing demands? Like,
You have to be flexible in this job. You can't ask me one day. I think every day is like a flexible job over the 30 years. Um, you want to do many things. You set up plans for this fantastic thing, and then you find you don't have the funds for it. And you do something else very fantastic, and that the guests are going to come in, and you've set up all the classes, and it's going to go, and the teacher in charge suddenly falls ill.
mhm. Yes,
Yeah, these are perfectly thing, and then you do something very nice, and then the child concerned has a need. So it's all about having your how do you do it will depend on the situation. So it's not one.
situation,
It's not one.
right. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. If suddenly you're with a child and you know everything, but suddenly your child gets seizures. So you have another set of five children also needing you, and this child has a seizure. Both need your attention. In very small ways, it's like that. And you've got to
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, so it's about having your antenna. What helps is knowing that in every one of us there's an amazing potential. There's over
Yes,
100 billion neurons. It's how
yes,
you guide it. The minute you start thinking, oh my god, what am I going to do, that comes in and spoils your work. But if your work works, and I think I have been very fortunate, extraordinarily fortunate. Mine is not a typical story, because the people I have worked with, the environment I have worked with, have always been that everybody is the only word I can use. They're fine people.
okay.
Everyone, I maybe one or but typically all, because we had the same cause. We were all
Yes.
working towards the same thing. You see,
Same thing,
whether you're
yes,
a
ma'am.
therapist or a social worker or a special educator, your love and your passion was for the child. Now, when I'm working with others, also, it's the same thing. So the kind of people who come in for a cause, you straight away have the same thing. You don't have that. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and you get each other very easily. So
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
really a wrong person to ask. I'm not one of those who's. And when you anyway grow up in a family and in joint family, not even joint family, your children are also different. You learn automatically conflicting demands. Three children needing different things. You all automatically
Yes,
have to adjust all the time.
yes, ma'am. So I think like
Does that answer your question, Shivani? Am I getting
yes,
across what you want?
yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. So, I think the environment that you're working in, so be it the parent or, like you said, the social worker or the teachers or anybody around you, are working towards the same goal. So, the understanding level
It's
of
much better. And you will find that in most NGOs. And in fact, this is one thing I tell everybody. You create, whether it's a school or a college or your place of work or wherever, you create a nurturing, kind, caring environment. Half
environment,
your
right?
buckets are one, where one appreciates. You may not understand each other because you're basically different. But if you appreciate each other and you give space, that's why they say ashrama, no shrama. This
Yes,
means there's understanding. And once you do that, the best in us comes out. So our kind of field, and we're not working towards making profit, no. Our thing is, and the whole attitude is different. If a child doesn't do well, we wouldn't say, why is he not doing well? We'll say, what in my program have I not done in order that he's not? What can I
not
do
learning.
to
Yes,
change my, what we call IEPs?
yes,
Where
ma'am.
have I, what has to be reviewed? And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
we have your, actually, your question is very good. You have money. There's one child who desperately needs calipers, another child who desperately needs something else, a child who needs surgery, or a parent who needs something. So often you have many questions like this. So
Yes, ma'am.
you have to treat each one as it's in. Yeah.
Right. Ma'am, how do you deal with pressure and stressful situations?
And that's what I said. Stress is our enemy. You're being aware. Number one, be aware.
Okay.
Stress comes because we are not aware. Constantly our emotions are with us. That's what I deal with. That's what emotional intelligence means, to allow your intelligence to guide your emotions. What happens is we are not even aware till it bursts, and then suddenly you're screaming.
Yes.
But actually the BP has gone up, the pulse rate has gone up, your tone has gone up, you're sweating, something is irritating you beyond measure, and you're not aware, you don't have time, and the stress is mounting. Then it bursts. So, how do you control stress? Step one, be aware. So, even for children, that's what you say. When the child is, before he screams, you say, oh, you're getting angry. So, you say, huh. You don't
Okay.
teach a child that. Even at 40, they don't know.
Okay.
So, that's what I actually deal with, handle your emotions, handling emotions. So, for stress, be aware. Second, regulate. How do you regulate it? The best thing is, again, your own intelligence. People who are such readers and writers, they will sit and do diary or do writing. It will help
Yes.
them.
Ma'am,
People
can
who
you
are
please
bodily kind of sitting will go for a run, go to the gym. They feel better.
just like name or tell a few methods by which you can in day-to-day life you can just reduce your stress, be it about anything, like some practices that are really
Number one, be
beneficial.
aware and admit. If you don't admit it, you don't even know you have stress. That's typically so. Who says I'm angry? Am I angry? Of course not. Did you say I'm angry? Is they're not even aware they're angry. Their voice is screaming. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, yes.
Number one, they need to be aware, and the ways to handle it depends on their own intelligence. So there are numerous ways. The person who is a physical fitness person will do run, do sports, they go and play. Half the stress goes out. They go into a basketball court, it will come back if they're okay.
Yeah, so
People,
any kind
yeah.
of
So
recreational
music,
activities.
music can be
Yes, ma'am.
calming music, singing, playing an instrument can be
Anything that lifts up your mood, basically.
eating, right, and that will help you to which you are attuned. A person who's physical, you tell him go and do Om. He can't do Om. He'll do Om and shout at the master because his personality is different.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you ask me for steps like that, it's this. Secondly, if you find actually check out what is causing the stress, it'll help hugely. And go back again to those first things. Check that you've eaten properly.
Yes.
Lack of vitamin B, lack of basic micronutrients in the body.
Right.
Yeah. And a faulty thing of something goes wrong, someone else is to blame. Not really.
No, ma'am. So
So,
I think you should
and
be well
often it's
fed
time.
and
It's time. The body is made so beautifully. Some amount of stress is good for us. It's like tuning a violin.
okay.
It's like really tuning. You get the best music when it's tight and strong. If it goes
Yes.
beyond that, it is toxic. Beyond
Yep.
that, it is
It
not.
breaks.
It breaks, and that is your thing. So stress by itself is not you. If you have to manage, I'm sure y'all are doing so much in a day. You're managing your own work, you're doing your college thing, you're setting up reports, you're planning interviews like this, doing it effortlessly. But your body can do it. It's doing a million things without you even being aware. It's
Right.
titrating blood, it's titrating. It's capable. Because
Yes,
there's
ma'am.
no I'm doing it is not there. So that is one thing, to be aware and regulate it and motivate yourself. Up, you have to tell yourself, hey, doing a good job.
Yes.
It's important
Yes, ma'am.
to
So
keep
it's about the
appreciating.
basics. I feel that, like when a baby is well fed and when he is well slept, so that is when he or she is not cranky. Other time
And loved.
and loved.
Critical to
Yes.
all of us.
Yes, ma'am.
Underlying need is for appreciation.
Yes.
Underlying need for every human being. That is what is parenting. Self-esteem means self-confidence doesn't come when you go for a 2 week class.
Yes.
Personality development. You can't develop personality in 2 weeks at 27.
Right.
So right from the beginning, and in whatever you do, and wherever you reach out, and that's what we do when we work with special needs. You say, "Oh wow, you did this. You tried hard." So you're giving descriptive praise. That helps a lot. So when a
Appreciate.
child grows up, like you correctly said, with appreciation and love, that doesn't mean spoiling. Buying the
Yes.
most expensive toys or buying wristwatches and
No.
iPad doesn't give you love.
Right.
It is the time you spend the thing. When the person feels that way, that is the emotional feeling. Plus, physically, they are well. You're able to handle it, and you know that you're getting stressed and handle it in your way.
Yes, ma'am.
Often, because they don't know that they are stressed, it creates a point. Two, once it comes, they don't know what to do. A lot of people need to talk to each other. If you're an extrovert, you're just going to go to your friend.
Yes.
People who are naturalist intelligence, you go to your animals, you go to your pet dog.
Right.
The dog can release anything. So these are just a
So
few tips.
there's a theory. Basically, like even when you talk to your plants, they grow well.
Absolutely, Shivani.
Yes,
Absolutely.
ma'am.
Cooking, that's also naturalist.
Yes.
Creating a recipe.
Yes, ma'am.
So you just redirect that stress into a more positive emotion.
Right.
Emotions are really what happens is it hijacks the lower brain and it releases stress releases a chemical called cortisol.
Cortisol. Yes.
Cortisol paralyzes the brain, as you would know. Then you can't work. You're doing
Yes.
a brilliant paper, it's coming out so well. And then that professor behind you, who is not very well favoring you, comes and says, "Oh, what same story, yeah? Finish your work, will just collapse."
Right.
Yeah. So that, I mean, just an interest. We often do that to kids also. So what
Right.
I'm saying is, our kind of environments where I've been fortunate enough, it's been a happy place.
Right.
And how has it helped? Well, all the children and parents and all who come there, it's a happy place. And happiness is a state of mind. So, everyone generates that and spreads it to everybody else.
Ma'am, I think Tare Zameen Par is a very basic and very beautiful example of,
Multiple
this.
intelligences, absolutely. It's dyslexia.
Yes, ma'am, right.
Yeah,
And other than that, also the NGO that is shown in it. So I think they have, special programs for all these special kids.
exactly. That's exactly what we do. Yeah. So he was very fond of art. Now that's spatial
Yes,
intelligence. We were
right.
focusing him on reading. He had visual perceptual problems. Now, what
Yes.
happens in visual perception? I wanted to
So
do a
his mind was really creative, but
yeah,
then he
yeah.
was not able to put it into words and
Yeah,
letters.
they
And
see it differently. There's a very nice website called it's just coming back the name, but you can actually self walk and see what it's like. If you really look at when you were very young before you started reading, you would have also had the same difficulty. You look at P, you look at B, you look at
yes,
D, you look at 9, you look at Q, you look at G. They're all lines with a bump on it.
right.
You've got to reverse it. So sometimes that happens around 5 or 6. The brain learns to put it all together. Sometimes you force the child to read much before that. It's just an example, no, it's not, don't generalize. Before
Yes,
the child is ready, if he goes on to higher academics or something like that, it can cause.
yes,
And
ma'am.
these are hidden disabilities. And they're hidden disabilities, typical stress, so the child would run away from it or
Right,
fight
right.
or shout.
I think they are not even able to convey it, that they are
You
not
can't
able to read.
communicate. How can you communicate what you don't know? You think
No,
everybody
yes,
else
ma'am.
is like them. No?
Yes, ma'am, right. Ma'am, what made you choose this profession? Like, what was it that got you into working with special children?
Lovely question. Lots of people have asked me that. I think the beginning was when I went into psychology. When I did psychology, it was way beyond. I did it in the 60s. Our college was in Chennai was, it was the second batch or something. I
Okay.
was fascinated. That was the starting point. And towards the end of that, we had this horrible play, but I don't like that word. They called it abnormal psychology. There's nothing abnormal, by the way. That's all dated.
Okay.
But then it was called abnormal psychology. And then we were taken around to see schools where there were different children, different abled. That's the first time
Okay.
I got exposed. And that kind of got me that aha feel. I don't know how to put it. I think all of y'all will get it when your passion, ability, aptitude come together. And it
Okay.
was at that point. There was no reason for it. Nobody could understand. I myself didn't even know there were studies for this.
Okay.
And then I got married. Then I had my children, and then I was wonderstruck about how every child is a miracle.
Right.
And my children being three and all being all right was like too much of a miracle. I just can't understand what happens when things are not all right. Was my next thought. What would happen to a mother? And that started it. And then I found out that there are just started at SNDT University special education. I was fascinated. I said,
Okay.
"Oh wow, what is this condition? Oh wow, what is this condition?" I knew child development and psychology and all that, and I learned with my children. So this was the second thing. So then I did
Yes.
the course, and
Okay.
then we came back, and all the movements were just starting, and I just joined in. Like Poonam was just starting the Spastic Society of India. Now it's Vidya Sagar,
Yes.
a great person to work with. We were a great team. We continue to be great friends. Yeah, and yeah. So there was no looking back. They say you find your. They call it ikigai.
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 Yes, ma'am.
I found mine. It is the child. It is the people. It is the love for the thing. Yeah. It
Right.
just came on. I mean, if you ask me, I didn't even know there was a thing called. Before I did psychology, I didn't know. Before I did special ed, I didn't know there was something called learning disabilities. While working with learning disabilities at Spastic Society is when I said, oh, this is autism. So every day there is a learning and a growth.
Okay. Ma'am, SNDT Pune you talked about?
No, that was in Bombay.
Bombay. Okay.
I did it as a special this thing as a guest student because I had to look after my kids and do this. And I said, for me, my family and kids come first. My husband had gone away.
Priority.
Just started. Yeah.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
was then in Marine Lines. I think it has moved to Juhu or something.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, correct. Right. Ma'am, like some informal questions now. Can you please tell us about, like what do you like to do as a recreational activity, or what are you really good at, or what are your hobbies?
My work itself is my recreation. Uh, People are my thing. So, but apart from that, I think I dabble a bit. I like astrology.
Okay.
I've learned my father-in-law is a very good thing. So I like to see how stars come together and do that is
Okay.
one thing. I don't read or write or anything. That is not it. Um, Cooking, baking.
Baking. Ma'am,
Three
actually,
generations of bakers. I did it. My son got it. My grandchildren are baking now. I
okay.
love it.
So I also bake professionally. Like
Oh,
I run a
wonderful.
small business here in my hometown.
Oh,
Yes,
where
ma'am.
is this?
Ma'am, Aurangabad, Maharashtra.
Oh, lovely.
Yes, ma'am. So that
Wonderful.
is actually like that is my passion, ma'am. I
Yeah,
also
I
really
just,
love to bake.
yeah, and I used to bake in those days in that small gas oven on top of the gas.
I still bake on the gas, ma'am. So I think like these OTGs and all these are like fine, but then the cakes that come out of the gas ovens, there is nothing
There's
to that.
nothing like it. And make little cookies for the kids when they were growing up. Yeah, so I would say that. I think these two. Yeah, and my work itself is it takes me to newer realms of knowledge and things. I don't need to relax. Every day is a Sunday for me. Because
Okay.
work itself is so fascinating.
Okay. Ma'am, what is your favorite food, or what is it that you cook really well?
Someone else must tell me. I can't say I cook it well.
So what
Someone
do your
else must
children
say
like
what
to
I
make?
cook well.
What do
What
your
is my,
children like to make?
I have a very simple palate actually. What do I like? It's a very difficult question, actually, Vegetarian, 100%.
Okay.
And as I'm growing older, I'm coming back to my roots. So
Hmm.
my good old dosha, idli, vatakondu, sambar, rasam. Is the,
We also really like it, ma'am, but I don't think that we, get to taste the very authentic South
that's the thing.
Indian.
And of course, my children have a very international palate. So the Mediterranean food fascinates me. All the when we used to go to London and the Mediterranean, the breads, the different breads,
Breads, yes,
and we
ma'am,
have
different breads, yes.
falafel and
Yes, ma'am.
Croissant.
Croissant.
croissant. When we were in Paris,
Yes,
yeah, croissants. I loved those.
they're very comforting actually.
Yeah, and in Myanmar and all that, I tasted their soups, their vegetables. They use sticky
Yes,
rice.
ma'am.
And if you ask me, that fascinates me. Traveling, and I've been
Okay.
able to do that also through my work. And I don't go and stay in the main towns. I go into somewhere off somewhere with the people. And over there, I teach parenting. So it's like a hands-on community work.
Okay.
And then you get to eat the food that they eat, not what the hotels provide.
Ma'am, all these ramen bowls and everything, they're very comforting. I think like India does not has developed that palette as of now.
Which
But
one?
the ramen bowls and these soups, they're very comforting food,
Yeah,
ma'am. Very easy to digest. So I think people in the other Asian countries or even in the Western countries, so their skin glows because they eat a lot of raw food. And I think in India,
very true.
you eat food that is very cooked and very processed.
Very true. Very true. Very true. What did you say about almond? What? I didn't get that word.
Ramen bowls, ma'am, ramen bowls. So it is soup, like it's a broth,
Yeah.
and inside that broth there are vegetables and noodles and all these things.
Yeah,
So
it's a whole meal in a dish,
yes,
It's
ma'am.
a raw, ma'am, raw material, not a cooked
but
one.
it's raw. It's raw.
Yes, ma'am. Only the broth is cooked. Other than the vegetables and everything are just like
Yeah.
raw.
In when you go to Myanmar and all, it's like that. They have in these places we used to go stop the Vandi would stop. The Vandi is car, your jeep or whatever. And over there they have these buffet and you get to eat noodles and then you have a whole lot of options that you can pick up. Maybe that's what it is.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Ma'am, we would really, love to try the authentic South Indian meal someday because, like, I am very fascinated about it. But here in Maharashtra, so like we get to eat, but then I don't think it is, like it is not that it doesn't has that homely taste, that you probably will be able to eat only when somebody in the South. So
Absolutely. You
yes,
have the most delicious poha and you have so many fabulous dishes in
in
Maharashtra. I
Maharashtra,
grew
yes,
up a bit in Bombay, so
Vada
um,
pav.
Puran is
Parapa,
Puran Puri is like one of
Puran Poli.
yes, ma'am. So that is one of the very special Maharashtrian dish.
What are your hobbies, both of you?
Hobbies. So I really like baking. So I am a lot into baking. I take professional orders and everything. Other than that, I really like to play tennis, lawn tennis. So I was very good at sports when I was in school. But like after I used to play a team sport. I used to play basketball. But after I left school, so there was no scope of playing like continuing playing basketball because you require a team to play basketball. So I started playing tennis. So tennis, and other than that I like reading in my free time. Sometimes I do read. Now like now it has like reduced a lot because you have phone
Okay.
is your biggest distraction, I feel.
Very
But
true, very true.
yes, other than that,
It
like
keeps
when
changing. Yeah, every stage you must, and that's important to keep on changing, finding new paths, finding new
yes,
ways. That's
I am really also very fond of growing plants and gardening.
ah, there you
So
are.
it's something I very recently developed in the lockdown because I actually, like started planting, and then when you see those plants grow because you're caring for them, so that is the uh,
Exactly.
biggest pleasure you get, I feel.
Absolutely. That is actually, if you ask me, it's what my thing in life is understanding and enabling. You've been doing that with plants. You can do it with music. I do it with people,
Yes, ma'am.
with children. Yeah. Not to
Yes,
fix someone, but to understand and enable. How
yes, ma'am.
nice. And what are your hobbies, Shiva?
Ma'am, like I love actually. I used to actually I had thought that I just want to explore new places. anywhere in the world because
It's a whole different world.
yes, ma'am. Actually, I just want to. I love traveling, ma'am.
It's beautiful.
And games, ma'am. Games except table tennis and long tennis and basketball. I used to play every game actually in my school, but right now, as Shivani said, we
It's a
don't
phase,
get
and you'll get
much
back to it.
time
Now you
to
have so
play at
many
this
other
time.
things. Absolutely.
So that's it, ma'am. And listening to music. Music is like it's like a stress buster for me.
Very true.
I think for anybody it is the same, ma'am.
No, ask people who are not musical. Music one, they'll say, "What is that noise? Turn it off."
Okay. I also like classical music. So I was like training in classical music.
Well, that by the way, that is another thing I'm very fond of. Music,
Yes,
classical
ma'am.
music, Carnatic, yeah,
Carnatic
and
classical.
Hindustani, yeah.
Okay. So I was learning Hindustani classical music. Carnatic classical again, it is like I think one step higher because it is very difficult. I really like sitar and tabla, so that is also something I, like not songs in particular, but pure music. I really like to listen to.
Absolutely. The flute,
Yes,
some of
ma'am.
them are so mellifluous. Any music is universal. The sounds are really universal.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, one last question to you. Can you please tell us about like one fond memory of your entire career, like anything that you very particularly remember?
Probably. I mean, they will be in my career, right?
Yes.
Um, there are so many, honestly. It won't be fair to pick up one. But since you said one, let me tell you something. I worked for 30 years, and my role has been working with the children, running their training programs, and reaching out to parents. When I moved out in my last governing body thing, that I was able to induct my very student as the director of the center,
Oh,
the very children I taught with special needs onto the board. So it's like
okay.
nothing about us without us. So we have youngsters with special needs on the board.
Yes.
That for me is like coming full circle. They
Full
come, they
circle.
came when they wanted something. We guide, we helped, we worked together. And now they're doing their parents proud, they're doing the organization proud, they're finding new paths, and they're on the board. Including they've made a ramp at the Marina Beach where
Okay.
everyone in wheelchairs can go. Yeah. So if you ask me for one, I would do that. But I think there are too many very important moments. Yeah. It's
Okay.
been a very happy journey. If you ask me, it's a very meaningful journey.
Okay. I think it must be very fulfilling for you.
It is.
Yes, ma'am.
And my children are a part of it, and everyone is like home. It's like there's no difference between seamlessly woven together.
Yes, ma'am. Right. So I think like this is like one of the best interviews we have had so far. It was like really really nice talking to you.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, ma'am. It's a pleasure.
So did you get the answers you wanted, Shivani and Shiva?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Actually,
Shiva, I mean, y'all have been very nice. That's why I said I didn't want those flat. You finished recording or you're still recording?
just a second, ma'am. I will stop recording.